Hi, I'm Chris from Airwindows, and hey, you can do this. Because this was Airwindows huge. So what's this thing? This is an early stage of a ridiculous loudenator. How ridiculous? Well, I'll show you, but I'll show you in a minute. Firstly, here is our sort of default setting. We're just starting it with that. And as you can hear, we can go from a quieter sound here. I'm bypassing it. Turn it on. And this is based on some technology that's been around for a while called Chebyshev harmonics. The way this thing is working is it's calculating harmonics from all the input signals and adding them all as it sees fit. But it doesn't always add them all because what harmonics, if you add enough harmonics to, for instance, a sine wave, and they're all odd-numbered harmonics, you end up with a square wave, but you have to add a lot of harmonics to get there. What this does is it adds harmonics, and then if the output of the harmonic is high enough, we're going to assume that the end frequency is going to be too high and would lead to what's called aliasing. And as a result, it stops adding that one. So what we have is essentially a loudenator that will add harmonics to saturate and distort frequencies only when they are not high enough to cause aliasing. Does it work? Well, it kind of works. It kind of works, and it's kind of a strange mess. We'll play with it a little bit. But firstly, so we called this a loudenator, yeah? You can hear that it's kind of loud, but then you can do this. So that's like proper teeth-grittingly loud. That's far too loud. But we can dial it in a more subtle way. Let's turn this nasty control all the way down. This control on the bottom barely does anything. It's controlling whether you kick in the high frequencies or not. So what we're doing here, let's just go and solo, for instance, drums only. So by default, we have a sound that's kind of like this. If we turn it on and turn it up, it's making stuff real loud. And if we turn nasty up, there's maybe this hint of additional aggressiveness on the hats, because those are what would cause aliasing for us. And here is a shaker. And that's clearly causing some aliasing. But if we turn that down, it's still giving a lot of attack, but it's going to try to revert to the highs off of the original sound. And we turn the nasty all the way up. Maybe that's a little more too much edge. Turn it back down to around where we start. and it's kind of acting like it doesn't have that abrasive edge there anymore. However, I do have to warn you that, for instance, I think this is a bass. Let's find out. You can probably hear how the system kind of breaks down. Oh, there's a shaker. I think the other sound was actually an electronic hat. So if we turn this way up, well, it's kind of okay, but maybe that's not all that obvious, but if you ran test tones into this, you would find out that it's not clean. This is not a clean loudinator. I apparently don't have the right kinds of sounds to demonstrate how it falls down at its, because if you feed it like dirty sounds like this, well, that just became really loud. If you fed certain kinds of synthetic sounds that I don't have in this particular mix, you would start getting extreme nastiness, and you'd start to hear the grind, the tonalities of it. So VST huge is a sort of precursor. Like you can use it immediately. I may be able to develop this further. We'll see. As you might know, I have just finished doing a bank of plate reverbs, and on Mondays these days, I am developing a sort of follow-up to the plate reverb, which is a particular kind of chamber that exists at a very special place in London. I will do my level best to do this, although last Monday I can't say as it was terribly effective. I didn't get great results, but I was only working on it for a couple of hours, and usually it takes longer than that. I'm going to be getting back into it again this coming Monday, and I'm going to see whether I can't get more results out of the chamber effect that I'd like to bring. Once that's finished, start looking into things like recording console emulation, because I'm continuing to pursue a line of plugins that, well, so here's where this gets a little complicated, because I'm doing all of this, and as you can see, I'm building up like a nice studio, and I'm looking forward to getting into some music making. I'm trying to build the system. If people are interested in how to do this, I'm quite happy to share my results. I'm building a system for being able to do a sort of radio Airwindows, live in the studio making music kind of thing, especially since apparently I can just jam on a keyboard and some people find that enjoyable. If I can do that, then I clearly should. It's been a long road to get to this place, and a lot of my purpose in doing this is to expand the open source and free toolkit for musicians and people out there who need something to do. Like, you don't necessarily, I know that doing the streaming, sometimes I'm doing the programming streaming. Not everybody who is watching the program streams are themselves going to program. I can act like you will, but that's not necessarily the case. And not everybody who shows up at the streams is necessarily using all of the plugins. But sometimes it's nice to just hang out with somebody. And I've spent a lot of time doing that kind of thing. I like watching YouTube videos a lot myself. I watch various politics YouTubers and a Canadian comedy troupe, Loading Ready Run, I absolutely love. And I was watching a video today that was kind of distressing. It was on the channel of a guy named Sam Cedar, who is a very clever man. And he took a caller. And the caller was a homeless person in California. Now, one of the things that I do is develop my software in such a way that it's not just open source so that other people can use that, but also open source in that if you don't have a lot of resources, you should be able to make music and express yourself. Some of the music that I listen to, for instance, that is a record by James Blake on YouTube. And he's a singer-songwriter, piano player, but he started out as a dubstep producer. And that's a genre that there's a lot of people in London who like my work and are still waiting for me to do like the Mackie 8-bus emulation. And I'm working on all that kind of stuff. But that comes out of people just in their flats and whatever. You know, it's the UK post everybody being on the dole, and reminds me again of the folks in California, like the woman who called in to Sam Cedar's show on a segment where they were talking about a man who works or worked for the fire department and has been busted for, apparently, this was a guy who's been caught on film going around and bear spraying homeless people while they were asleep. I could talk about how I like to make my audio software and my tools so that anybody who could get shelter and get something as minimal as like a Raspberry Pi, if you have one of those and you have me and you have like a Reaper, do you have tools to express yourself and something to do? Because when you're in desperate straits like that, it's not just getting shelter, you also don't have anything to do. But what I would like to say about that story is when I was homeless, like 30 years ago, back in the day before any of this, they didn't do that to you. And if somebody had attacked me and hurt me or killed me, back then, when I had not learned to program a computer and didn't have anything, you wouldn't have this. So I take some of that kind of stuff, maybe a little personally. But one of the things that helps me with that is when I'm able to do my work and understand the ways in which I can help, like as me. I don't make enough money doing this one of the things that you should know if you're doing a YouTubing thing or whatever, or doing a Patreon thing, is you're not going to make any money. You have to put all your money back into the business. This is what I clearly do. And you'll be seeing more of that because when I go back into the studio again, it is going to be, being able to track music like this kind of music that I have here. Here, let me unsort the things. I can go back into the studio and do stuff like this or anything. And you should be able to watch me doing all of that, including a drum room camera. That is, you could say I've come a long way, and I enjoy the heck out of that. I really appreciate the help I've got over the years, including the help that I've got from Patreon, but also the help that I've got from State of Vermont and various programs and things 30 years ago when I had none of this and nobody knew that I'd be able to do anything with my life. But this is why I do the stuff that I do. And I guess this is me saying I'm looking forward to getting into the music making thing in ways that people can spend a little bit more time throughout their week. I can make no promises about when I'm going to be live streaming, because contrary to the Monday live stream, where I always try to show up at 11 o'clock Eastern Time, and the studio live streaming, I'm looking to be able to hit a power strip and basically go online and start streaming at all weird times or whatever. So you might end up seeing more Airwindows live streams, and they might end up being not nearly as focused as the programming streams. But if you wanted to be a sort of fly on the wall hanging out in the Airwindows studio for like radio-free Airwindows and watching me do stuff, that's good for both of us because it'll get me recording more music. I've been fooling with this one track for far too long and haven't even put out the final result, which has harmony vocals and all manner of other stuff, but that's for later. And it'll be good for me to do that because that'll get me recording new things. Anyways, I hope you like my other videos and all the plugins that I make. And thank you for hearing me out over some of the things that are personally important to me. Might go some way towards explaining why I do this kind of stuff, even though I could get a lot more money in the commercial world. But you know, some stuff is important. And I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.